everybody, it's Lon.TV, and I figured it was time for me, the iPhone guy, to check out what was happening in the Android world. So I went out and bought a Moto X the other day for the heck of it, and I really like it. I think this is a really nice Android phone. This is by far, as an iPhone person, the best Android phone I have ever used. I am really impressed with overall build quality, its usability, and I think to some degree how far the Android operating system has come as well. So this is kind of a nice marriage of good hardware design and advancements in the operating system that have really come together to make a really, really nice phone. So this is it here. It's got a 5.2-inch screen, so it is smaller than the iPhone 6 Plus, but slightly larger than the iPhone 6. And you can see here it's just a little bit wider, but not much bigger in the hand, which is really nice because that iPhone 6, I looked at it in the store the other day, it looks huge, as does like the Galaxy Note and others, but this feels, for a 5.2-inch screen phone, it actually feels really nice in the hand. It's an AMOLED display. What's nice though is that the display doesn't really trend too much on the blue side. I often had a problem with other AMOLED displays. They often tend to just be a little bit too cold in their color temperature for me. This one feels a lot nicer. The Moto X is a high pixel density display. It's actually more retina than the iPhone screen is. It's 424 pixels per inch, and you really can't notice the difference per se as far as looking at the screens. They both look good, and you really can't make out any individual pixels. But one thing that I found to be interesting is that if you have eyesight problems or have a hard time hitting targets on the screen, what they've done with that extra pixel density was make everything larger, so you're able to hit things that you may not be able to hit comfortably on the iPhone. So if you're having trouble, hitting the icons properly, you're having trouble typing on the iPhone, you might do better with this. Now the iPhone does have a mode where it'll scale everything up, but it looks like it's it's magnified. On here, you've really got a display that's tuned for this size of icon and keyboard and everything else, so it really feels pretty nice there. Now, it's not the thinnest smartphone in the world, but it is very comfortable to hold. What they've done is they've made it very thin at the edges, and they kind of make it thicker as you get out towards the center, so it's got a bit of a curve to it. So when it's on the surface of a desk, you can kind of push your thumb against it, and it'll just wrap up into your hand. So it does feel very nice to pick up, and it moves around a little bit on a desk, but you can also place it down flat. And what they've done is kind of raise the speaker area here, so when you do have it flat without a case on, the screen is not touching the surface of whatever you're placing it down upon. So I thought that was kind of a neat thing to have those raised areas there. I thought maybe it was stereo speakers, but they're not. So when you have like the speakerphone going or music playing, it's only coming out of the bottom here, so you're not going to get kind of that Beats audio experience you might have on some of the other phones out there. It's got a 13 megapixel camera in the back. It's good if it takes decent pictures, but it's not as good as the iPhone camera. It's also a little frustrating when I'm taking video that I really can't focus while it's recording. It has to rely on its own autofocus. Maybe there's a way to do it, but it wasn't immediately apparent to me. And then when I was tapping on the screen to try to get it to focus, it would take a picture. So pretty cool that you can take a picture while you take video, but I would have liked the ability to be able to focus while I was recording. But it does do up to 4K video. So if you're looking to take some 4K shots, it's not going to be something that will rival a professional 4K camera or even come close to it, but it's certainly going to give you a true 4K resolution at 30 frames per second. And I'll post some video samples on the channel so you can click on that to check those out. Now, my only gripe with the overall design of the phone is that the volume keys and the sleep and wake button are on the same side of the phone. So this is the sleep wake button here. They textured the button a little bit so you can kind of feel the difference, but it's very small and it's sometimes very hard to do that. So I'm often hitting the wrong key when I want to do something. So this is the volume key here. This is the sleep wake button. On the iPhone, what they've done is they've put the volume key on one side and the sleep wake button on the other, and it would have been nice for them to have had that as well. But beyond that, I am pretty happy with the hardware overall. And I forgot to mention it's got a 1080p camera in the front here as well for conducting video conferences. Now, this is a stock Android phone. The only thing that's really not stock on it are the Motorola enhancements that they have to it. So what will happen is when it's laying flat on the desk, it immediately turns itself off. If I just run my hand across it here, it'll pull up the notification screen. What I can do is just take my thumb or a finger and just tap on the center here, and it'll give me notifications that I might have missed. So any of the Android notifications that happen, I can just get at them just by tapping the center of the screen here, and then I could choose to actually launch those apps directly from here, or just unlock the phone by swiping down and get into the regular Google screen. Now, the new Moto X also has that feature where it's always listening to the sounds around it for a particular key phrase, and when that phrase is uttered, it will invoke its voice services. So I could say to the phone, "Hello, computer, take a selfie," which will then summon the camera up here automatically. You could also say things like, "Hello, computer, what's up?"
Hello, Lon. The time is 5:02 p.m. Nothing much going on right now.
And that little screen there actually could be more useful, that if you're driving, it'll read your text messages and your emails to you, and you can actually do some basic responses to those while you're driving with voice and not by typing, which is pretty cool. And that's a Motorola built-in thing, but if you give it something that it doesn't know what to do with, it'll then toss it out to the Google app. So if I say, "Hello, computer, what's the weather like today?" You'll see that it quits the Motorola app and then tosses me over to the Google app to get the answer to that question. So it's pretty cool that you can, again, this works just like the other one did, and you can make your own custom phrases and everything else. This is an optional feature, though, so it's off by default. You have to turn it on, and you do that through the Motorola services, which I'll show you right now, because there are a couple of neat things that you can do here. So let me just unlock the phone here. Now, these settings are specific to the Moto X, but I'm sure these options are available on other phones in different ways. The first section I want to show you is the Assist section, and basically what this does is have the phone behave differently depending on the type of activity that you're doing. So you can set a timer and say, between these hours, I don't want the phone ringing or blinking or anything else, so the display can stay dark even if it's receiving notifications. They'll come up when you set your wake-up time, so you can have some moments of peace if you so choose. You have a driving mode where while you're in the car driving, every time a text comes in, it'll read it to you. So that might get annoying after a while, but you can have it do that. So even if the phone is beeping at you, you're not feeling the urge to look at it. It can just read everything off to you. You can also set similar settings for when you're at certain locations. So you can say, when I'm home, just talk to me, versus having the phone ring. And you also have the ability to do some gestures with the display to have it do different things there as well. There are a couple of other things that I found to be pretty interesting. The first, of course, is that voice feature we talked about before. So you can turn this on or off with this check mark here. It's off by default. I think the phone does try to walk you through setting it up when you first get it going, but again, you can turn it off anytime, and you can also change the launch phrase. That thing we're using was set up through this screen as well, so you can basically use any kind of launch phrase that you want. There's also some settings here for the display also if you want to customize what things show up in that Motorola notification screen. This won't impact the basic Google notifications you'll have when the phone is unlocked, but you have that capability there. And speaking of unlocking, that's the one thing that I find lacking from the Moto X that I really like on the iPhone, is the fact that I can just hit the fingerprint sensor here and unlock my phone, which is a really nice feature, really secure. I can actually secure this phone with a really strong password that I don't have to type in all the time. It's to type it in once when I turn it on, and then the fingerprint sensor picks it up from there. I could probably get one of those customized lock screens for the Moto X, but really the fingerprint integration on the iPhone is just really, really good, and I haven't seen it matched anywhere else just yet. But of course, give it a year or two, and I think we'll see that coming up pretty soon. Now, its predecessor was faulted for not having the best processing and gaming performance, but they've seemed to have corrected a lot of those issues. This one's got a Qualcomm quad-core processor, a Snapdragon 801, and it is performing very nicely on this 3D Mark benchmark. In fact, it outperformed the NVIDIA Tegra 4, which was last year's hot chip. It's got an overall score of 19,628, so that puts it above the Tegra 4 and also above the iPhone 6 as well on this same test. So really nicely performing processor, and I think gamers are going to be quite pleased with it. So that is the new Moto X, and I have to say, this is the first Android phone that I could consider using on a day-to-day basis. I really, really like this phone, and I've never felt this way about an Android phone before. And I don't say that to disparage Android. I know a lot of people get worked up in this iPhone versus Android thing. I don't really care about the rivalry. I've lived through Commodore versus Apple, Coke versus Pepsi, Nintendo versus Sega. I go for what I like and what really fits my needs the best, and the iPhone platform has largely been there for me all of these years. However, this is really a great mold of hardware and software that works well together, doesn't get in the way, and really allows me to accomplish my work without a lot of management of the device. And I think that's why this is really a nice piece of hardware. So we'll see how things develop as the new version of Android comes down the pike. It's not perfect. The camera could be a little bit better. The screen isn't so great out in direct sunlight, but those are minor gripes. I think overall this is a really decent alternative if you're not looking for an iPhone. As for me, I have a few apps that I really depend on the Apple side, namely OmniFocus, which is my task manager. I depend on that wholeheartedly, and I can never leave it. There are some apps for Android that can kind of work with my data set, but they're not totally developed there yet. So I think I'll be using this as kind of like my secondary device and sticking with the iPhone overall, but I'm really impressed with how far the Android platform has come, and I really feel this is at parity now with the iPhone. This is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.